In late October of 2018, when the Appalachian forests surrounding Black Hollow, West Virginia had already begun shedding their last. Leaves and the nights carried a damp, cold that seeped through car doors. And into the bones, a 32-year-old rideshare driver named Daniel Harper accepted what internal company records would later mark as an anomalous but completed trip, though no such phrase exists in the public-facing system. And at the time, Daniel had no idea that pressing the accept button at 1:41 a.m. would quietly align his life with something that had been waiting far longer than he had been alive, because the request contained no passenger photo, no rating, and no destination, only a pickup pin placed unnaturally deep within a Forest Service road long abandoned. After a mining collapse decades earlier, a road locals avoided not out of superstition but out of habit, because things that entered rarely came back the same. And although Daniel hesitated, noticing the payout was nearly triple what the distance suggested, he rationalized the decision the way tired people always do, by convincing himself that fear was simply fatigue and that money had weight where instinct did not. So he turned off the main highway and followed his GPS as it recalculated again and again, each time lagging longer than the last, the signal bars shrinking as the trees closed in until the road narrowed into gravel, and the darkness ahead seemed to swallow his headlights instead of reflecting them. And it was there, just past a rusted warning sign half buried in weeds, that he saw her standing motionless at the edge of the road, a woman in a pale blue dress that looked untouched by dirt or rain, her bare feet planted on cold stone, her head slightly bowed as though listening to something beneath the ground. And when she opened the back door and sat down without asking or greeting him, the interior temperature dropped so sharply that Daniel's breath fogged, though the heater was running, and he felt an immediate pressure behind his eyes, a sensation like being watched from the inside rather than the outside. Yet he still asked for confirmation of the destination, only for her to reply in a voice that sounded distant and strained, as though spoken through water that he already knew. And at that exact moment, his phone updated on its own, locking the route toward town without any touch input, a detail Daniel would later fixate on, because he was certain of it. And as he drove, silence thickened, the radio crackling briefly before dissolving into low, irregular breathing that did not match her chest movements, and seemed to come from the car itself, from beneath the seats, from inside the dashboard. And when Daniel glanced into the rearview mirror, he noticed something subtle but deeply wrong, that her reflection lagged a fraction of a second behind her actual movements, as if the mirror was struggling to remember her. And the farther they traveled, the stranger the world became. Mile markers counting backward instead of forward, trees repeating in identical clusters like copied images, and road signs pointing to towns that had ceased to exist decades ago. And when she finally spoke again, saying this was where it happened, the engine cut out near an old bridge hidden by fog so dense it seemed solid, and the forest fell completely silent. No insects, no wind, no distant highway hum. And when Daniel turned to look directly at her, the back seat was empty, the door still locked, no indentation in the upholstery, nothing to suggest anyone had ever been there. Yet his phone vibrated immediately with a notification thanking him for completing the trip and asking him to rate the passenger, now displaying a name that had not existed before, Emily R., along with a 5-star rating already submitted, and a short message reading "Thank you for stopping," and panic finally broke through his rationalizations as he tried repeatedly to restart the car, only to notice headlights appearing behind him on the bridge, dozens of them suspended in fog without sound or movement, as though frozen mid-approach. And beneath that silence the breathing returned, louder now, layered, overlapping, surrounding the vehicle, while his dashboard clock flickered to 1:59 a.m. and then to 2 a.m. where it froze permanently, the same moment his phone screen filled with ride requests, stacked endlessly on top of each other, all from the same pickup location, all under the name Emily R., vibrating until the glass cracked, and in the dim light, Daniel finally saw what the fog had concealed beneath the bridge, a river choked with vehicles, their roofs barely visible, their headlights still faintly glowing underwater, dozens upon dozens of cars in various states of decay, each corresponding to missing persons cases stretching back over 20 years. And as the realization settled, memories that were not his own flooded his mind in violent fragments, cold water rushing in through shattered windows, lungs burning, fingernails scraping glass, voices screaming until the river swallowed them. And he understood then that Emily R. was not a passenger but a mechanism, a trigger, a memory given form, a way for the forest to repeat what it had learned to take. That every driver who accepted that ride became part of the pattern, their final moments recorded as completed trips, their fear preserved like sediment beneath the bridge. And as unseen hands pressed against the windows leaving, wet prints that slowly slid downward, Daniel did the only thing that felt defiant. Irrational and human, he rated the passenger 1 star, and instantly the breathing stopped. The headlights vanished, the pressure lifted, the engine roared back to life, and he escaped the forest without looking back, later reporting everything to police who found no bridge, no river, and no abandoned road. Dismissing his account as stress-induced hallucination, yet internal company data later leaked showed that every year on the same October night at exactly 1:41 a.m., a passenger named Emily R. requests a ride from the same location. Every time the driver disappears except one, and next to Daniel, Harper's name exists a permanent system note that no administrator can remove reading driver, escaped by refusing the dead, though Daniel no longer drives, no longer sleeps well, and no longer trusts silence because sometimes, just before 2 a.m., his phone vibrates once on the nightstand with a notification that never opens and vanishes on its own, leaving behind only a single sentence burned into the lock screen for a fraction of a second, asking softly, patiently, as though nothing was ever finished. "You forgot to finish the ride.